Astrology. Today's video is a quick one on a very interesting subject. We're going to talk about how Uranus seems to have been misnamed. The qualities of the planet Uranus in astrology don't match the qualities of the god Uranus in mythology, but they actually align very directly with the qualities of Prometheus, the Titan from the Greek mythological canon, who is credited with stealing fire from the gods and sharing it with humans. This thesis comes originally from an essay by Richard Tarnas, published in 1993, but I have some important additions to make. If you're new here, hi, my name is Hummingbird. I'm a mundane astrologer with a background in history and politics, and on this channel we talk about how the astrology of the past and present corresponds to the compounding crises presenting themselves on the world stage today. If that is your jam, hit subscribe, join me for weekly Astro News live streams on Sunday evenings, and consider joining the channel membership and following me on Instagram. I've also got a once-a-year masterclass coming up on Saturday, July 26th, so stay tuned until the end of the video to hear more about that. Today's topic is extremely relevant to humanity's compounding crisis because it relates to technology. As you might know, the planet Uranus just moved into the sign of Gemini. America is coming up on its third Uranus return, and the big tech corporate behemoths are trying to dominate every aspect of our lives. Understanding Uranus as Prometheus is super helpful if you want to grasp what we're dealing with. So as I mentioned, the original thesis that Uranus is a misnomer in terms of the characteristics the planet seems to have astrologically comes from an essay by Richard Tarnas, published in 1993, right in the middle of the Uranus-Neptune conjunction that took place between 1992 to 1994. That's an alignment that only happens once every 180 years, and it's also extremely important for understanding what we're dealing with today, so I'll touch on that a little more at the end of the video. But the essay is called Prometheus the Awakener. Tarnas, if you don't know, is a trained historian as well as a mundane or historical astrologer, and he's most famous for Cosmos and Psyche, a book published in 2006 that traces the evolution of Western history alongside outer planet astrological transits. In Prometheus the Awakener, Tarnas offers his well-documented theory that both in natal charts and in transits, Uranus usually shows up with the traits of Prometheus. In mythology, Uranus the god is a monarch, sometimes called the god of the starry skies. He's married to Gaia, the earth goddess, and together they create the order of the world. Uranus the god resists change to that order, and one of the most significant parts of his myth is that he's overthrown by his progeny. But in astrology, Tarnas writes, Uranus shows up as, quote, quite the opposite, that which rebels and overthrows. None of the various qualities observed in connection with the planet Uranus, brilliance, freedom, unpredictability, invention, individualism, and so forth, has any plausible counterpart in the myth of Uranus, end quote. Instead, the qualities Uranus the planet activates align directly with Prometheus. Prometheus is not an Olympian god, but a Titan, a generation of beings who preceded the Olympians, and he is explicitly rebellious. He's a champion for humanity, while the Olympian gods, Zeus in particular, want to keep humans literally and figuratively in the dark by keeping the power of fire from them. Prometheus stealthily climbs up Mount Olympus, grabs a spark of fire from the forge where the gods' weapons are made, hides it in a hollow fennel stalk, and brings it back down the mountain and gives it to humans, where its enlightening nature spreads far and wide before the guides can stop humans from stepping into a new level of power. When I say this essay is well documented, I'm referring to the fact that a good 3/4 of its 99 pages is devoted to tracking famous historical figures who exhibit Promethean traits and have close Uranus aspects in their natal charts, and or who have Promethean breakthroughs at times of significant Uranus transits in their lives. I'll link a website where you can download a PDF of the essay if you want to dive deeper into that. In closing the essay, Tarnas addresses the question of why the misnomer happened. Uranus is Saturn's father, he writes, so it made logical sense to name the planet after Saturn, Uranus. In various parts of his myth, Prometheus is also a trickster, and Tarnas speculates that that quality played a role as well, with Prometheus perhaps playing a trick on astrologers by not allowing his true nature to be immediately revealed. Now, I want to build on 3 parts of this theory. First of all, although Tarnas touches on what was happening historically in 1781, he doesn't put it in full perspective. He mentions the common astrological talking points that name the American and French revolutions of the era, as well as the Enlightenment and the return to Greco-Roman thought, as corresponding to Uranus's rebelliousness and desire for freedom. He also notes that Uranus was the first planet discovered by telescope, hence its association with technology. But we can take this much deeper. I want to propose that technology was the fire Uranus/Prometheus was bringing in. The late 18th century was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, when advancements were being made in fields ranging from textiles to steel production to steam engines, and from chemistry to electromagnetism to astronomy. All of these developments represent the breaching of barriers and/or the condensing of time and space, both of which are astrological Uranian qualities. Moreover, technological progress has not slowed since. Some scholars consider this time period the beginning of the Anthropocene, the era of humanity's irreversible impact on Earth. Just as Prometheus's delivery of fire pushed humanity past a threshold from which there was no return, so too did the Industrial Revolution create a rupture in our relationship to the natural world that has never been resolved or reconstituted. Additionally, astrologers sometimes describe Uranus as the higher octave of Mercury, which can be understood as reason. During the Industrial Revolution and Enlightenment, reason is what was said to be being reclaimed from the ancient past, as the West moved away from its so-called Dark Ages of blind obedience to Christian dogma and rediscovered the light of Greco-Roman thought. And it was reason, rationality, that allowed for the scientific and technological breakthroughs of the era. Second, I think the misnaming of Uranus is more than just Prometheus's trickster nature. Prometheus was deliberately stealthy in his thievery on Mount Olympus. He snuck up at night, hid the fire on his way down, and intentionally shared it before the gods could regain control. So it's no surprise that the archetype of Prometheus snuck into history under the guise of another god. And finally, a crucial part of Prometheus's myth is his punishment. Even though the gods can't get the fire back, Zeus sentences Prometheus to be chained to a rock on a mountain where each day an eagle comes and pecks out his liver, which then regenerates overnight. In some versions of the myth, he suffers this way until Chiron, in great pain from a poison arrow wound he's unable to heal despite his renown as a healer, offers to give up his immortality in exchange for Prometheus's freedom. Also, in some versions of the myth, Zeus punishes humanity by creating Pandora and her famous box. Pandora isn't supposed to open the box, but her curiosity gets the better of her, and she does, releasing great evils on the world. Now, anyone versed in Greek mythology knows that I am oversimplifying things here, and I also think it's very important to read between the lines and look at the patriarchal and elitist beliefs that color the surface of Greek myths, especially myths involving women and the centaurs. So for this last thought, I'm just offering some general lines of questioning. Looking at all the ways technology is causing humanity and the Earth immense pain today, from the horrific technological weapons the Western war machine has used and continues to use around the world, to the surveillance tech, to the harvesting of natural resources and environmental destruction, to the digital addiction so many of us suffer from, to the psychopathic billionaires who control our tech and who now plan on escaping to their bunkers and freedom cities while the rest of the world burns. What do these dark endings to Prometheus's story tell us? Again, in some versions of the myth, after he gets his freedom back, Prometheus makes a deal with Zeus, or even helps him avoid another potential rebellion by offering him a prophecy that helps him foresee the future. So what kind of deals are we unconsciously making by saying yes to technology, and who are we making them with? If you want to dive even deeper into what astrology reveals about the technology-laced world we inhabit today, you're invited to my workshop on astrology and the rise of big tech. This is for astrology students and practitioners who want to be versed in the astrological history of the digital age. We start with the Uranus-Neptune conjunction, which corresponds to the creation of the World Wide Web, the revolutionary set of code that brought the internet into the center of our minds, homes, and cultures, and then looks at what each Uranus transit since then tells us about the world we're living in today. This workshop is live on July 26th, and you can find all the details at the link in the description box below. And that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back very soon. See you next time.